Our presentation is A Look into Bloody Sunday 1972 by Danielle Vissering, Hannah Rideout, Slade Burke, and Bridget Travers. The quote at the bottom of the screen is by the band U2 called Sunday Bloody Sunday.
So for our question that we wanted to answer for this project, it was what happened to jumpstart the events that transpired on Bloody Sunday 1972 and what changed afterwards in Northern Ireland. Our biggest primary sources that we used were the Bloody Sunday Inquiry, which was the government project that happened after the event, and these three books, or two articles in a book. The Bitter Road from Bloody Sunday, one ex-soldier charged in massacre that shook Northern Ireland in 1972 from the New York Times, and the Bloody Sunday Massacre in Northern Ireland, the Eyewitness Accounts by John Mullen.
So what led up to the fighting on Bloody Sunday was by the late 1960s, Derry or Londonderry was considered a Catholic ghetto, and they called it Bogside as a nickname. And a local poet in Derry once said that Bogside was once a street, but is now a condition. In 1968, the conflict came to a boiling point, and the Catholic working class rose up against the inhumane conditions, citing the U.S. civil rights movement as inspiration. The Catholic working class also saw themselves as neo-Marxists, trying to get rid of the British institutions in Northern Ireland. On 1969, the Battle of Bogside broke out. It was a 3-day riot between the Catholics and Ulster loyalists, and the British had to send troops to help the Ulsters restore law and order in Northern Ireland. After that, Bogside was a symbol of civil rights and became a hotspot for the IRA. So what happened at the protest was in Northern Ireland, where Catholics were holding a civil rights march to protest British occupation, the British rule in Northern Ireland. And the IRA specifically sent word out they would take the day off to ensure that the protests ran as smoothly as possible. However, Frank Lagan, Ulster officer, told the British the IRA were going to be present and we're going to use the crowd, to get the crowd riled up and use the youth as cover as they shot at the British officers there. This prompted the British, under General Robert Ford's orders, to send the paratroopers to look over the protest. And the paratroopers were considered the toughest and roughest British Army unit. And his reasoning to send the paratroopers to Northern Ireland was because they were the only unit he claimed had enough knowledge of Northern Ireland and the political situation to contain it.
Okay, on Bloody Sunday, the event began at 3 with the protest, and they were going to head towards the town center, but it was blocked by army barricades, so they changed course and headed towards the Free Derry corner in Bogside. As they headed, skirmishes started between protesters and paratroopers. One paratrooper even yelled, "Get it today, you bastard," at a bunch of Irishmen. And at 4, stones started being thrown at the soldiers. At 4:07, paratroopers moved in to make it rest of marchers. And finally, at 4:10, soldiers began to open fire, and a total of 13 civilians were killed, and one more was injured and ended up dying later of their wounds. Victims of that day were Patrick, Gerald, John, Michael McDavid, and Kevin. The bottom row is Bernard, Gerald, William Nash, James Ray, and John Young. In one of my articles, I came across this man, Michael. It is not his real name. It was used to protect his identity in the article. He was present on January 30th, and he had it's seen in this photo carrying one of the victims, Jackie Dempsey. His photo became a famous propaganda image as seen on the side of the building. He originally had gone over to see this reverend who was helping this young boy, and he wanted to be next to the reverend so he could get his last rites if he ended up dying. And is quoted saying, "So I put my head up and I see a priest leaning over the person on the ground. And I say to myself, if I'm going to be shot, I'm going to be shot beside a priest, whether I get my last rites. So I get up and run over and look down, and there was a young lad lying on the ground."
Many people developed the opinion of British government as mishandling the situation of Bloody Sunday in 1972. The British soldiers that shot the total of 26 civilians during this march who were not armed. McCleary stated in his work, there have also been accusations of individual soldiers possibly having psychopathic tendencies. This led to the idea that they were abusing their power and taking advantage of the situation. The paratroopers, or paras, are the airborne infantry regiment of the British military. During the attack, the civilians killed were not working in the IRA, just participating in the march. After Bloody Sunday, Northern Ireland's Public Prosecution Service prosecuted the paratroopers for the murders that had occurred on Sunday, 1972. These men were not above the law, and the family members of the victims just wanted justice served. The paratroopers were described as hot-headed and trigger-happy, which is very dangerous for someone who should be trying to protect the innocent and not injure or kill them.
Before the protests, the IRA had ties to a youth organization called not organization, but gang called the Derry Young Hooligans. And they were a youth group in Derry consisting of teenagers, mostly boys, that terrorized the Ulster community and British loyalists alike. The IRA, as said earlier, was thought we're going to use these hooligans as cover. Of course, it didn't happen. The IRA called off the appearance at the march the night before. However, members of the IRA heard about the shooting while it was happening over the radio and were outraged by the injustices the British were getting away with. And some IRA members attempted to fight back the day of the protest at some paratroopers, but were either threatened by them or just had to run because they were outmanned and outgunned by the British Army. And then after Bloody Sunday, people tended to look at the British as bad guys. And people started to side with the IRA, therefore the IRA recruitment skyrocketed.
So after Bloody Sunday ended, an inquiry was set directly after, following the events. The inquiry was set by the government of Northern Ireland and the British government, and the blame lies, according to the inquiry, with those members of support company whose unjustifiable firing was the cause of those deaths and injuries. And allegations were made against politicians and military authorities in the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland, because these allegations claimed that the government officials had not simply planned on stopping the Civil Rights March, but had planned to use lethal force to make things go their way. These allegations were quickly abolished by the government, and they weren't very much mentioned in the inquiry, besides saying they were hearsay. So some interesting facts to note about the aftermath is the soldiers who took part in the violence of the day were granted anonymity in the reports, which the witnesses were not, which was very interesting to know. General Ford, according to the inquiry, had the right to send out troops, but was criticized for using lethal force against them. And the Northern Ireland Civil Rights Association was believed not to be blamed for the deaths either, because they were just marching for their rights. And these are our written sources. These are one set of our image citations. This is another, And that's our music citation. Thank you.